Hey everybody, so we're a month into the season now, and it's time to start talking about coaches. Now, I think it's a little early for anybody to be firing their coach. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I think we're going to get to Thanksgiving before we see a coach get canned. But that's what I think. I've been wrong about that before. We could, if the Rangers lose like their next 2 or 3 in a row, Vigneault could be out. But I think it's going to be probably not before Thanksgiving that a coach gets fired, but that does not mean that some of them are not on the hot seat. So I'm just going to go through some coaches that are potentially on the hot seat, and I'm going to talk about whether I think they're going to get fired or if they're not, or should they be or shouldn't they be. The first one, I already mentioned, the New York Rangers. Vigneault's seat should be very hot. I think it is very hot. They're a couple losses away, I think, from him getting the boot. They've gotten off to a horrendous start, as if you've been following the NHL at all, you know. This was a team that was supposed to easily be a playoff team. They're off to a horrible start. They might try to go the trade route before getting rid of Vigneault, just because of Vigneault's track record and longevity in the NHL and his reputation as being a very good coach. But trades are really hard to get done, especially during the season in the NHL with the salary cap and just everybody being in it for so deep into the year. There's not a lot of teams to trade with, so the trading might be difficult, which means Vigneault is going to be the scapegoat and he's going to get canned. So if the Rangers don't get back to 500 quickly, I see Vigneault out of there in New York. Another team off to a horrendous start, Montreal Canadiens, Claude Julian. Now, so far, it seems like Marc Bergevin is getting a lot of the heat for the issues going on in Montreal. And he should be. He's the one that put the roster together. But I think Julian could be out, too. Julian's first run in Montreal didn't go all that well. And this one really hasn't gone well either. They lost in the first round of the playoffs last year to the Rangers. And they've gotten off to a horribly slow start this year. Carey Price looks terrible. Their offense can't score, or at least can't consistently score. It seems like they either score 5+ goals or they score 1. There's no in between. There's no consistency. And getting rid of a GM is a little bit harder to do, especially mid-season. So Julian, I think his seat is very hot. Next 10 games are going to be huge for Montreal. If they play 500 hockey and kind of even out over the next 10 games or better, then he'll be fine. If they go like 3-7 over the next 10, I could very easily see Julian getting canned in Montreal. Montreal's not a city that you can lose in and not have heads roll. So if they continue losing, somebody's going. Julian will probably be one of multiple people gone if this continues for the Canadiens. Rick Takut in Arizona, I think his seat is somewhat hot. I don't think it should be. First year with the team. It's really not his fault that he has to coach such a bad team, and I mean they're not a good team. Just look at their roster. Their defense should have been better this year. They should have had a decent defense core. Their top 4 are all good players. They should be better defensively, but they still don't have adequate goaltending, and they have no offensive firepower up front. They're completely relying on Clayton Keller, a rookie, to do all of their scoring. They have no offensive firepower at all. Their goaltending's still garbage. Their defense is underperformed, but you can't just throw that all on Takut. I think Takut should be safe. I don't think he'll get fired, but I think there is some heat there just because of how bad the team's start has been. losing only one win so far this season. Phil Housley in Buffalo, his seat should not be hot at all. Way too early to start talking about firing him. He just got there, and that's another team with a very inadequate roster. Average goaltending at best, not a good defense. Injuries have also been a huge problem, and really, with the exception of their first line, not a lot of goal scoring either. So another, the team's bad because the roster's bad, not because of the coach. So I don't think Housley's seat's hot, and I don't think it should be. Jeff Blashill in Detroit, seat should be hot. Seat, I think, is pretty hot at this point. Blashill's been there for a couple of years now, and we're not seeing any improvement. Now, this is another one where the GM plays a big role in it. Ken Holland is not making this team any better, really hasn't over the past few years. This team's getting no better, and even with the way Detroit started this year, they were kind of overperforming. They've definitely leveled back out now. I think Blashill will end up getting canned at some point this year, because Detroit is not a playoff team. They're going to continue to drop in the standings. They're probably going to be one of the 3 worst teams in the East, and I think Blashill goes because Detroit, for some reason, still thinks Ken Holland is a god, even though he's done nothing good for this team in a number of years. And Blashill's going to be the one that gets kicked to the curb while Holland keeps his job as GM, even though I'd like to see Detroit get rid of both of them, because I think they need to rebuild, just completely start over with that team. Interesting one here. This is kind of just me. I haven't heard anything about this from anywhere else, but Todd McLellan in Edmonton. Edmonton's off to a 3-7-1 start. Really, really bad. This was a team that was supposed to be one of the best in the league. They haven't been so far. I think McLellan should feel a little heat. I don't think he is, and he's considered one of the better coaches in the league, but I think he should feel some heat. I don't think just because has such a good track record and is considered a really good coach doesn't mean that he can't get fired. And if this start continues for Edmonton, I think you've got to do something, and that might be the first step. That would really shake that team up. Would be to fire Todd McLellan. I don't know who you'd replace him with, so that might be a little bit of a deterrent to doing that. But I think it's definitely a possibility, and I certainly don't think you should fire him at this point, or even really be close to. I just think there should be, a little lighter under his seat, just heating it up a little bit to say, hey, let's get this ship righted, turn the season around, or you might be out of a job. And another interesting one that I haven't really heard a lot about, but I think could be a possibility, is Barry Trotz in Washington. If Washington misses the playoffs, I think Trotz is gone, absolutely. They got off to a pretty good start, but they've really not been good since, and they're right around 500 now. I think they're one game under, but it's way too early to be saying fire Barry Trotz, but come January, February, if they're still right around 500, it might happen. And this is another one where the GM plays a huge part in that. They gave dumb contracts to TJ Oshie and Dmitry Orlov. They're in huge cap trouble. They have no depth. They lost a good chunk of their defense with Shattenkirk, Schmidt, and Alsner leaving, and they got rid of Marcus Johansson because of cap problems. This team's in big trouble, and I think there's nowhere to go for them but down. I think they're going to keep going down, and if they miss the playoffs, I think Trotz is gone. I think the GM should also be considered for going too, but I don't know if that would happen after 1 year. Again, GMs are more difficult and less likely to get fired than coaches. So you could see Trotz gone come January, February if the season continues going the way it is for the Capitals, which is not very good. So that's just what I think. I may have missed some, but I know that the big four that everyone's been talking about are Vigneault, Julian, Takut, and Housley. They added a couple others in that I've been thinking about, but I think it's too early to fire the coach. But I think some teams are very close, especially the New York Rangers. I think they're very close, and another losing streak and Vigneault could be out. The rest of them just speculation. That's just what I think. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Spread the word. We want this channel to grow. Tell anyone and everyone you know who likes hockey. Please have them subscribe. It'd be awesome to see this channel get to 50, 100, 1,000 subscribers. But thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.